This video is sponsored by Surfshark. You ever hit the point where you realize something's gotta change? So you start hitting the gym harder, changing habits, maybe even cutting people off, and suddenly everyone's like, yo, you've changed. That's exactly the vibe I get from the Fold 7. Samsung stripped it down, dropped the pen, and had a serious glow up. But when you switch things up that much, not everyone's gonna be on board. So the question is, did Samsung actually level up, or did they lose sight of what made the Fold the Fold? Hi everyone, Thao here. So this is the first Fold that actually feels like a phone first. Not a chunky phone you put up with because of the big screen inside. Nope, when closed, it's finally thin enough that you forget it's a foldable. And that's kind of the dream, right? But hold up. Going this thin isn't all good news. There are some trade-offs. First, the hinge isn't as stiff anymore, so I've actually found it hard to lock in that perfect viewing angle. Second, the speakers feel like a slight downgrade compared to the Fold 6. It sounds flatter with less depth and less bass. Third, because it's so thin, opening it up is actually a little trickier. There's just not much surface area to grip anymore. And finally, yes, stylus support is gone. Apparently, Samsung had to remove the digitizer layer to pull off this ultra slim design. Now look, that's a lot of trade-offs for a slimmer design, right? But here's the thing, it totally changes how I view the Fold now. This is the first time I've looked at a Fold and thought, yeah, I can actually see people living with this on a day-to-day basis. And honestly, that feels like a home run for Samsung when it comes to getting more people on board the foldable train. Besides the thin factor, the biggest upgrade in daily use for me has to be the new cover screen. It's 6.5 inches now with a 21:9 aspect ratio. It's not that much wider on paper, but in real life, the typing experience is miles better than last generation. Put the Fold 6 and 7 side by side and just look at how cramped the keyboard on the 6 is. On the 7, your thumbs actually have space to move and breathe. Also, certain apps that used to have info cut off on my Fold 6 now actually display properly on the Fold 7, thanks to the added width. And one of my favorite things about the Fold series has always been about being able to use it as its own stand for watching stuff. And the bigger screen on the Fold 7 is just a better experience for that. You lose a bit of that one-hand ability, but in general, I'm happy with the new dimensions. It's just way more practical. Open it up, and the main display is now 11% bigger, coming in at 8 inches. And man, it's so thin in tablet mode. The fact that it's barely any thicker than the USB-C port or the side-mounted fingerprint sensor is wild. The crease is still there, but less distracting because it's not as deep as last year, at least for now. It also doesn't feel fragile. I'm not going to bend it on purpose, but it feels really solid. Apparently, Samsung added a titanium plate under the screen and made the folding glass 50% thicker. The display feels really solid now. There's like no give at all. On the 6, you could kind of compress it a bit. The big screen experience hasn't been all that different for me. Everything just feels a little bit roomier. Typing with a split screen keyboard is still one of my favorite experiences for long emails or messages. It's just super comfy. You'll still get a lot of black bars when watching videos because of that squarish aspect ratio. On top of that, you've got to deal with the crease. So this isn't a massive upgrade to the video watching experience over a traditional phone. This is more ideal for multitasking. It just feels like it was made for running 2 apps side by side with maybe a video in a pop-up window. There's this new 90:10 split screen mode now, which I absolutely love. Basically, it lets you keep one app front and center while the second one stays tucked off to the side, just peeking in. When you're ready to switch, just tap the edge and the second app slides in. It's a slick way to keep both apps on deck without constantly juggling windows. In general, the bigger screen just opens up a lot of possibilities. Now, if there's one change I think Samsung fumbled, it's swapping the under display camera for a punch hole. Sure, photo and video quality is better, but was it really worth interrupting the edge-to-edge screen? There's rumors it's due to a lawsuit, but who really knows, right? Look, it's not a deal breaker since you'll forget about it in a few days, but if you're coming from any previous Fold, it's hard not to view this as a step back. Battery size and charging speeds are unchanged. I've been getting very similar results to the Fold 6. So not exactly terrible, but not that great either. You can expect 5.5 hours of Call of Duty mobile or just over 3 hours of 4K video recording to completely drain this battery. Ultimately, I've made it through most days, but there were a couple where I needed to plug in before 8 p.m. Samsung could have and probably should have gone with a silicone carbon battery to squeeze more juice into the slimmer body. But clearly, they're still playing it safe when it comes to battery tech. Still, it just doesn't make sense to me that this and the Flip 7 can share almost the same battery size. Performance has been solid. You get a very decent jump over last gen, which is always nice. Everything feels fast and snappy. Multitasking is smooth. Apps open quickly. It just does what you expect from a flagship at this point. It can run all the games too, but don't expect it to outperform something like the S25 Ultra. So every Fold I've used tends to run warm during everyday use, and this one's no different. But what's surprising is that despite being so much thinner, the Fold 7 actually seems to manage heat a bit better than the Fold 6. One thing I did notice though when I was recording video outside, the screen dimmed faster than it did on the Fold 6. Probably because there's less room inside to deal with heat, so it drops the brightness early to keep things from overheating. The Fold 7 is running One UI 8, and while it's not a huge overhaul, there are some nice quality of life improvements. Quick Share is cleaner now with a dedicated send and receive tabs that you can open right from the quick settings. The Calendar app now lets you drag and drop events and adds a built-in reminder tab so you don't have to switch apps. And Dex got a refresh too. It's now based on Android 16's desktop mode with a smoother interface and better multitasking. Let me know in the comments if you want a deeper dive on that. Now, let's talk cameras. The big change this year is that Samsung brought over the 200 megapixel main sensor from the S25 Ultra. And yeah, it's a nice bump. Side by side with the Fold 6, you'll notice better low-light photos, sharper detail, better dynamic range, nicer depth of field, and more balanced colors overall. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's a mind-blowing upgrade. The rest of the camera system, basically the same. I've noticed some minor improvements in processing, but nothing major. Zoom still caps out at 3 times, so if you're trying to punch in on something far away, I'd say up to 10 times is pretty good. It just doesn't come close to what the S25 Ultra's 5 times lens can do. It's a solid camera setup, and I'll gladly take the main sensor upgrade. But on a phone that costs $2,000, I kind of wish they pushed things a little further. All right, we talked about the pictures, but how's the video quality? Let's find out. While you check out the improvements over the Fold 6, let me tell you about today's video sponsor, Surfshark. Ever get annoyed by those "this content isn't available in your region" messages? Yeah, me too. That's why Surfshark rocks. It lets me unlock shows and movies from anywhere with just a single click. Plus, it blocks ads, trackers, and malware, so I can browse with that peace of mind. It can even help me find better deals online, like cheaper flights and car rentals, just by switching my virtual location. The best part? One account works across unlimited devices, so my phone, tablet, laptop, all protected. Try it risk-free by clicking the link below and using code Thao for 4 extra months free. So to answer the question, did Samsung level up or did the Fold lose some of what made it special? Honestly, it's a bit of both. The Fold 7 is a giant step forward in design and usability. It's thinner, lighter, and feels like a phone you'd want to use every day. The engineering is seriously impressive. If you're a fan of tech, how can you not be impressed by this? But it also feels like it lost some of its mojo. Without the S Pen, it just doesn't feel like the ultimate productivity device anymore. The S Pen was such an iconic part of Samsung's identity, especially on the Fold. Losing it might not matter to most, but for longtime users, it stings. And I totally get why some of you might even feel betrayed. Still, if this new, thinner design gets more people on board with foldables, maybe it was the right call for them, right? A feature only 1% to 2% used versus a design everyone benefits from? That's tough to argue with. Is it worth $2,000? Yeah, that's a hard sell. This still feels very much like a luxury device for those with extra income rather than a must-have for everyone. It's cool, no doubt, but the reality is that it doesn't drastically change my life. At the end of the day, the Fold 7 is like a new chapter for Samsung. It's not perfect, nothing ever is, but if you want one of the most badass pieces of tech that you can buy right now, this is probably it. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, I'm out of here. Bye!